He and his writing partner Scott Alexander has given us such amazing films as People vs. Larry Flint, People vs. O.J. Simpson, Man on the Moon, Big Eyes, Dolomite Is My Name, and one of the greatest films ever made, Ed Wood. Let's say hello to our good friend Larry Karaszewski, everybody.
Hello, everybody. This event has been a long time coming. Last summer's been out of commission for close to 40 years. It hasn't been shown in its original theatrical form. It's not been on Blu-ray or DVD. It kind of just fallen completely off the radar. And it's kind of weird because when the movie was first released back in 1969, it was a big deal. It was a hit. It was really well reviewed. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. Rex Reed said it was the best movie in years. It introduced to the world 3 amazing actors who are still killing it today: Bruce Davison, Barbara Hershey, and Richard Thomas. And it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. Fantastic performance from Catherine Burns. And even though she kind of left Hollywood a few years after this movie got made, for this one movie, particularly this one monologue in the middle of the picture, she became a bit of a legend in acting circles. I have been obsessed for many, many years with the people who made this film, Frank and Eleanor Perry. Yes, sure. They were a married couple who I think don't get enough credit for being pioneers of the American independent film movement. Like John Cassavetes back in the day, they did everything on their own. In 1961, they made a movie called David and Lisa that got nominated for Best Director for Frank, Best Screenplay by Eleanor, and that was something that didn't happen. That's something that was very rare at the time, that a movie made outside the studio system got that kind of attention. And even when they started making movies on a more regular basis, their films always felt really independent. Stuff like The Swimmer, Diary of a Mad Housewife, and this movie today, Last Summer, which is, I think, easily their darkest film. This movie, it's kind of hard to understand how groundbreaking it was at the time. If you had told someone way back in the day that you were going to see a movie about teenagers on the beach, they would think you were going to see Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello, and that's definitely not this. This movie takes full advantage of the freedom of the new Hollywood movement. These kids smoke weed, they get drunk, they are obsessed with sex, and they're capable of intense violence. It gets rough at times. It's more Lord of the Flies than Beach Blanket Bingo. I saw this movie when I was 10 years old for the first time. I was a weird kid, long story, I'm not gonna tell today. But I became obsessed with it. It easily became like my favorite movie. And for some reason, the movie never stopped playing in my hometown. It played during the original release, and then Richard Thomas started a TV show called The Waltons, and it became a big hit, so they reissued it then. And then because it was a teen film, it always played like as a second feature at drive-ins. So it was, and then it would show up on TV, and I'd make all my friends watch it. But on TV, it was really censored and cut to pieces. But even in the censored version, it still packs a wallop. And then it stopped showing. Like there was a VHS release in the early 80s, but after that, nothing. Like there was no, in the 80s nothing, the 90s nothing, and the 2000s nothing. It just totally fell off the radar. And around 2009, Grant and the American Cinematheque, I can't believe it's been this long, I've been doing this for 17 years, came to me and said, would you like to do a screening series? And I said, yeah, that'd be fantastic. They said, what would you like to show? And I said, I'd love to show Last Summer. No one ever shows Last Summer anymore. Let's do that. Let's do a whole retrospective of Frank and Eleanor Perry stuff. And that's what a great idea. And Grant went to look for a print of Last Summer and couldn't find one. I mean, we knew it wasn't shown anymore, but I don't think we knew that it didn't exist anymore. He went to the studios, they didn't have it. The Academy didn't have a print. UCLA didn't have a print. Quentin Tarantino has that huge archive. He had nothing. And so we were just sort of like flabbergasted a little bit. And years went by. I became Vice President of Preservation and History at the Academy, and I thought that would do so. We would shake the trees and find something, but the best thing we could find was a 16mm print from New Zealand that they said was complete, and we had it shipped over, and we had a couple screenings. We had it with Barbara and Bruce at a couple places in LA. But unfortunately, that was a cut version too. It was parts of it were the original version, but parts were kind of really just chopped to pieces. So that was a bit of a disappointment. And as years went on, you know, unfortunately, I started to give up hope. I thought this was going to be like a lost film. We would never find the elements. And then something kind of cool happened. Warner Brothers bought the Allied Artist catalog, and they discovered some boxes of last summer stuff, material. And it turned out they had a lot of things. They didn't have everything. Like the original camera negative for Reel 5 was missing, which is the controversial section of the movie. But they had enough. They had like an inner positive, inner negative. They felt they could put it together. But they were also kind of confused, because if you go on the internet, there's a lot of talk about an X-rated cut of this film. You know, I had never seen an X-rated cut of the movie. When it came out, there was an R-rated version. But I was never sure, because there was all this chat. And so I consulted the foremost expert on all things Frank Perry and Eleanor Perry. Believe it or not, it's not me. It's a guy named Justin Bozung. When you ask me a question, I run to the bathroom and text him, and he gives me the answer. He's writing a biography of the Perrys. And I said, you know, what's the deal with the X-rated cut? He says, well, they can't find it because it doesn't really exist. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, yes, Frank submitted the movie to the ratings board, and it got an X rating. And this is the time when Midnight Cowboy was rated X, Medium Cool, you know, If, Coming Apart. You know, X didn't mean pornography. And it was so close to the release of the movie, Allied Artists had bought some ads in New York with an X rating. However, Frank Perry really didn't like that. He made a movie about young people, and he wanted young people to be able to see it. So he quickly went back to the ratings board and kind of said a little bit, what do I got to do? And it turned out he had to do almost nothing. He had to change one fucking to frigging, and remove one thrust from behind. And it was like, that's all. It was under a couple seconds. And he's like, fine. So he did that. So all the prints made of this movie are the quote-unquote R-rated version. You know, there are no posters for last summer that say it was rated X. And so once Warner Brothers heard that, they were like, let's go full steam ahead. And so they put a lot of resources into it. A woman here named Daphne Dents from Warner Brothers, I really tip my hat to her. Thank you for so they redid it in 4K. It's you know, they cleaned up the soundtrack. It's coming out finally on Blu-ray in a month or two. And you guys are the first people to see it, which is kind of amazing. Yes, and you're very lucky. First of all, I'm going to say, who here has never seen any form of this movie before? That's a lot of people. All right, well, you're in for something, let me tell you that. And we're very, very lucky. Two of the stars of the film, Bruce Davison and Barbara Hershey, are here with us. We're going to do Q&A with them immediately following the movie. I'm going to talk to them, but I'm going to throw it out to you guys pretty quickly, because since no one's seen it, and this is the first time anyone's looking at this version, I want to hear what you guys think. And I have a very special surprise that we haven't told anybody, that the third member of the cast, Richard Thomas, is in New York. He's doing his new Broadway show is opening this week, but he was so excited that this movie was coming out again that he sent a video introduction for the movie tonight. So we're going to show that now, and it's going to go right into the movie. And I'm going to stop talking and paraphrase Tennessee Williams. Finally, last summer.
It's Richard. Oh, Barbara, Bruce, I sure wish I were there with you tonight to enjoy watching us as children, which we were. I miss you all. I wish I could share it with you. It was such an important experience for me. I am so thrilled that Last Summer is available again. It was an important picture when it came out, and it was very important in my life. And of course, we get a chance to watch our dear Kathy's beautiful performance as well. Have a great time, everybody. I wish I could be there with you, and I'm so happy. Barbara, Bruce, I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the stars of Last Summer, Barbara Hershey and Bruce Davison. It's hard to talk after that.
Yeah.
Give me your first reaction, both you guys. What was it like to see this movie after all this time?
I can't give you one reaction. I have 1,000 of them running around in my head. I had never stepped in front of a camera before this, so you know, I always compared this at the beginning with what I didn't know how to do. But all I can think of is Kathy. I think of, you know, lots of times actors don't have a lot of friends, but we have war buddies that we go through things and we can pick up mid-sentence 20 years later. And I'm really sorry what happened to Kathy, because we were very close during that period of time. You know, whatever love-hate goes back and forth in 12 hours a day when you're working like that. We really loved each other. And it was the first time for me to ever have that experience. And I saw Kathy last in 1980, and she had quit acting. She had become a writer. She was writing for, I think, the Playwrights Horizon. And I often regretted not staying in touch, but that happens all the time. We just don't get to stay in touch. We can pick up 20 years later. Barbara and I just did a film together 2 years ago, and it was like, so, just stepping right back into where we left. But I loved those people, all of them. I mean,
How did you feel working in this movie again?
Seeing it or working it?
Oh, seeing
Seeing it. We'll get to the other.
Yeah.
I was fascinated to see it. I don't think I'd seen it since forever. I mean, it did forever. And I had pretty much the same reaction. The last section of the film is so, I don't know, it almost doesn't fit into the film to me. It's such a turn that it takes. And it's so violent and so fast. I mean, do you think it's natural, or do you think does it feel arbitrary to you sometimes?
I don't think it feels arbitrary. I mean, obviously there's 1,000 different ways the movie could have ended, but you know, I think the movie is tipping you off so much all the time. I mean, the bird and with Annabelle, and 1,000 times you were, you know, Sandy in particular is manipulating the situation
because she's so frightened.
Yeah.
That's the secret of Sandy. That she deflects the energy off of her onto others, you know, when it gets intense.
I never realized Barbara's power in that film so much as I saw it in this.
Yeah.
You know, I was just a young kid and I had a crush on her, and we were all running around the beach until David showed up. But
I'd never played a part like Sandy before. I'd only done little parts where I did versions of myself. And I really wanted to play this bad girl. Frank was sort of open to me playing either one of the roles.
Wow.
And I really wanted I wanted to act. I wanted to go someplace I'd never gone before. And it was such an astounding experience because I didn't have any frame of reference as an actor to know what was about to happen to me. And you know, what you're trying to get to as actors is to get to something real where it's happening to you. And if you prepare right, sometimes that happens, and it's magical when that happens. It started happening to me as Sandy. I'd look at the moon, and the face of the moon was screaming, and you know, I'd have all these feelings and things that I never experienced before. It frightened me, to tell you the truth. Afterward, I learned about these things, and these are good things. You look forward to these things. But at the time, I was just sort of blown away because I had no experience with it.
Well, it's amazing to watch the three of you, Richard Thomas, the three of you on screen, because it feels like a threesome. It feels like such a relationship, and it feels like real friendship. You're actually, you know, it's so rare to see that and not feel fraudulent.
Right.
And when you're watching the truth serum scene or the scene in the movie theater, it's just, you know, it feels so real. How do you get something like that on a movie?
Well, it was real. I mean, it was the first time. I mean, Richard had done one little bit in Winning. You had just started as a TV series.
Myler, I think, too,
I
didn't you?
worked with Will Myler.
You had the Monroes, I think you had just done, but none of us had really made a film. And I was just, it's watching myself now, it's like watching Jell-O. All over the place. You know, there was no meter or lever on me, and Frank, Frank was had the subtlety of a sledgehammer in so many ways. I mean, he really go to hump harder. You know, he was really right in there all the time, and I mean, he was kind. I found him kind and generous and very supportive, but you know, he was larger than life.
He was larger than life, but he was very much an actor's director. And the truth serum scene is the perfect example of that. We couldn't have come to that kind of naturalness if he hadn't set up that scene that way.
Exactly.
You know, it was pure Frank that he allowed that to happen, encouraged that to happen.
Yeah.
The way he shot it, the way he let us say our lines and overlap, and it was all Frank.
And there was one moment while we were working in the middle of that scene where a still photographer sort of came into our eye line and was shooting shots, and he took a beer can and whacked him right on the head with it.
Frank
The
did?
scene
Wow.
went right away. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very strange experience. We were shooting in Fire Island after it had closed. It was like the beginning of fall. And so it was empty. It was like a ghost town of Fire Island. And that subterranean forest. I mean, the atmosphere of the place was astounding.
Right. Which island was it? Do you remember which one?
It was Cherry Grove, and in fact, I shot again in that same building back when we did Long Time Companion.
Yeah.
I shot there again.
I mean, Fire Island is a character.
Yeah.
Totally, you get that sense. So my wife, parents had a place out in the Pines, and you know, it was like.
Yeah, it was the Pines and Cherry Grove,
Yeah.
that area there. And there was a group of people when we started, but we ended up being so hot on the beach when it was 40 degrees. It got very cold sometimes. Spraying sweat on us.
But the forest is a set, correct?
Yes, that was a set.
I think
We ran out of time
Oh, yeah.
because there was a little grove they were going to shoot in, but we it just, you know, ran out of warmth and heat, and we got to the fall, and that's when we shot that scene on the soundstage.
Was it shot in order? How much? I can't imagine shooting that ending and then going back to.
Yeah, pretty much it was shot in sequence, which is very rare too. But once again, that's Frank, with protecting his actors and trying to grow and working with novices. None of us really had any idea what we were coming into.
Which he liked.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He called us mes enfants.
Now, was Eleanor Perry around?
Yes.
So talk about her a little bit. I'm fascinated by her.
Eleanor was also very kind at the time. They were together. Unfortunately, years later, she wrote Blue Pages when they broke up, and there's some nasty scenes about us in it. I remember Richard and I, one time, there was a floating dead rat in the bay, and we were throwing rocks at it, and she made a whole chapter out of that. But
it's a fascinating book, by the way. If you're interested in like behind the scenes Hollywood in the '70s, when Frank and Eleanor split up, Eleanor wrote a roman à clef, I guess is what it's
we
called.
were in that. It was the last summer for them well.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So. But it was a great and fascinating time. And for me, I was a starving kid living in the Lower East Side, going to what's now the Tisch School, but I didn't know anything about filmmaking.
Did
So,
you guys audition, or how did
Yeah.
you get the part? How did you get the part?
yeah, we all auditioned. I auditioned many times with a lot of different cast members. We were sort of hacked and pared down and pared down.
Oh, wow, so he put together like a threesome or whatever, and how you guys
Yeah,
act
there'd be
together?
a couple of threesomes up at his apartment, and he'd have a little tent, and we'd do the beer drinking scene, and then another cast would come in, and so he did that about 3 or 4 times to me.
Now, Barbara, you were so affected by this movie that you actually changed your name for a little while. Can you talk about that?
Yes, for a 2-year period, yes. You can't train seagulls. They had to capture seagulls and tie them up and manipulate them to do things in the scenes. And there was one seagull in particular who was more photogenic, more spirit. It was just a special bird, and I was fascinated by her. And like I could look in her eyes, and though she was tied up with this filament, I could see that she was totally free. She was totally wild. I thought, oh, if I'm ever tortured, I have to remember that. They couldn't touch her. And so I learned things with her, and the Wranglers noticed that, and they called her Barbara Seagull, and they even put her on the call sheet. Do you remember that? And in the scene, when I throw the bird into the air and it lands funny, that really was happening. She really was traumatized. And I was 19 years old. To stop shooting is a huge thing. A little budget movie and dollars going by with every second. And I said to Frank, kind of meekly, I think she's not landing well, and can we switch another bird? And he said, no, we're gonna go with more takes. So we did a few more, and I said, really, I wanna stop, I wanna get another bird in. He said, no, we're just gonna do one more time, just do it. And I remember picking her up and seeing sand in her eye, and I threw her in the air, and I turned away from the camera and burst into tears, and I had killed her. And I remember Frank saying, oh, well, it's immortalized on film, and which didn't sit well with me.
Like us now.
And so I felt this at the time. Now I'm looking at it, I'm 19 years old, I'm very guilt-ridden by this. And I felt to myself that she injured me, that I became Barbara Seagull. And then I felt in my naivete that I had to make it public. I had to be brave about it and call myself Barbara Seagull. And I remember going to my agents at William Morris and telling them this, and they didn't blink, they didn't say anything. But I learned a quite graphic lesson that if something happens to you personally, keep it personal. You don't have to make it public. It'll destroy it for you personally. But that's why I was Barbara Seagull for 2 years.
You keep it private, so you're not asked about it 60 years later.
Yes, right. Right.
When I was a little kid, I thought it was beautiful that you called yourself Barbara Seagull at the time.
Did you know why I did that?
I always heard it was because you were attached to the seagull in the movie. How do you talk about the reaction to the film after when it opened? What was the feeling?
I don't know about the public, but my mother sat there in the theater and waited till the whole theater emptied. And I went up to her, because I had never said a swear word in my life before I played this film. I'd never played a part like this. And I went up to her and she said, "You've got a lot of nerve." Yeah.
I remember my Uncle Alan, and he said, I took your Aunt Lavera to that. You look up and there's 22 feet of your ass. I remember that ass I used to change diapers on.
I don't know publicly how it was reacted to.
I mean, I think very well.
Yeah.
Kathy got the Oscar nomination.
Oh, Kathy
Yeah.
got that, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, Yeah, Kathy was nominated that year for it. She did, I think, 2 other films.
Yeah, she made another movie with Richard Thomas.
With Richard, Red Sky at Morning, that I had been called to do at one time, and I was doing something else. But she had an anger in her about injustice of this business, and it was she's a perfect target for having a brilliant talent and being so young that she was really, it was hard for her to cope with the rejection that she received. I think,
and even the acclaim. I mean, like I mentioned the Roger Ebert review. I think even the 4-star reviews were like, and a wonderful pudgy actress.
Yes,
Right.
it was all that, and I remember her getting very mad at one of the line producers one time that was only giving us 1 roll of toilet paper a week instead of 2, you know, and she just let him have it. I think they were getting $15 a week per diem or something. But she had a glass jaw in a lot of ways, and I really feel badly because she just jumped. She was the most talented of us there. I mean, she just jumped off the screen. She was Gioletta Messina, I think, to Frank from La Strada. But I feel really sad that we lost her. That she just said, "Fuck it, I'm not going to stay here for this. I'm gone, and I don't want anything more to do with it." Broke her heart.
Right.
All that success when you're young, and then have it taken away from you. I mean, it's. I was coming back with the band. The band did the music for the film.
Right, the band were on the set, correct?
Yes, yeah, they were on. I came back in a limo with Robbie Robertson and the band, and Albert Grossman, their manager. And I remember driving at dawn through Broadway, and he just looked out as we went through an empty Times Square, and he said, "There's a broken light bulb for every heart on Broadway." I just remember that moment as we slid through. But you know, we all had that experience as we were young, and as we get older, and things vanish. Some things
You
come
guys
back.
look exactly the same, so it's kind of amazing. You guys look exactly the same.
Let's see the
Pretty
video.
fantastic. You both look amazing.
Well,
Can you talk a little bit more about Richard? That was so sweet what he sent earlier. How do you remember how you met Richard on the set, or any great Richard Thomas stories?
yeah, well, I mean, Richard and I were both from New York. Barbara was from the coast. And we did the left coast, and we came back to do a couple of pickup shots and stuff, and Barbara took Richard and I and Kathy up to the top of this mountain, and it was all fogged in, and she said, "This is called Laurel Canyon. It's the cool place. It's where you'll live when you come." And I did. I lived there for 25 years. But Richard came from a family that were famous ballet people. His mother was a great ballerina, and he had been raised in the theater, and so he was, I think, the hippest of us all as far as that. I ended up doing. We remained friends over the years. I did a few Waltons with him, and we did a movie of the week, and we keep in touch. We finally were on Ozark together, opposite sides, but we've kept in touch over the years. And Barbara and I worked together, what was it, 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, you said that, yeah.
She was the star and I was the villain.
Did you ever read the Evan Hunter novel? By any chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you aware of
And
the
he was
sketch?
there.
He was
came
there.
to
So
the
talk
set.
about that.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I always remember that it was we would meet at where the beach was wildest, and that's where we first met Sandy.
Oh, wow. You know, he wrote a sequel. There's
Yes.
a sequel book called Come Winter.
Yes.
Where the same characters show up at a ski resort, like
Right.
3 or 4 years ago. Up to your own tricks.
I'm
again.
glad
We never
you
made
did
that
I want to throw it out here. What did you guys think? Woo! Any questions?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for all the hard work that you did to resurrect this mummy.
Thank you. After seeing it in such rough shape for so many years, to see how beautiful it looks. It was the DP on this movie. His big credit is Young Frankenstein.
Oh,
So if you're watching this movie thinking of Mel Brooks, that's why. Amazing. All right, anyone got a question? Wait, right in the back. Yes, right there.
For one of your first films, it seems like it's very complicated soundtrack-wise,
Yeah.
requiring a lot of looping afterwards, and yet it fits so well. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that process.
He wants to know about the complications in terms of like the dialogue. It does seem to move. I'm assuming you shot on the beach.
Yes, we shot on the beach, so we couldn't use any sound. The film is 75% looped.
Wow.
yeah, it's a
We
lot of-
looped all of that film. We spent an awful lot of time in Glen sound
Wow.
doing every line
Yeah.
that wasn't shot on a soundstage.
It's amazing because it's still, definitely, there's definitely an audio thing happening, but it definitely still feels naturalistic, which is rare for looping that much.
And Kathy's monologue was sort of ruined too, because you could hear the camera cut
Oh, yeah.
through it, and they've really cleaned it up beautifully here,
Oh, wow.
which is great. It really serves her.
It's such an amazing monologue. It's incredible. Yes, right there.
I just have commentary. I,
To enjoy your evil.
no, I think.
Well, it's so interesting because, throughout the whole movie, you guys are bouncing between being incredibly sympathetic. You guys
Yeah.
are the leads of the film. The audience wants to be on your side. You guys are so, charming. I mean, that must be a very hard thing for an actor in terms of like knowing when to play that sympathy card and also then turning into a mean person.
No, that's the script. They
It's a script,
they
that's
just
Frank.
pull a dirty trick on the audience.
Yeah.
And that's Frank again,
Yeah.
helping us.
And Eleanor. Certainly Eleanor.
Yes, in the middle. You were right there, sir.
For me, what makes the film so powerful is that it's about the cruelty of young adults that finally explodes at the end of the film. Do you think that is worse now?
Ooh, do you think that the cruelty of youth is worse now than it was back then?
I say it's more accepted now,
No.
certainly. Back then it was kind of shocking. Now it's,
Well, it's interesting that Frank Perry expert, maybe you guys saw this and maybe you saw these scripts. Apparently there's a draft of Eleanor's script that ends with a very 2025 kind of moment where, if you remember when Rhoda is introduced, she has a camera. She's
Yes.
taking pictures.
Yeah.
And in one of the drafts of the script, after the incident, after the rape in the movie, you guys grab her camera and you take a selfie.
Oh, that would have been
Oh,
good.
that would be a bit rough.
Yeah, no, and apparently Frank, like right before, he was like, "No, this is terrible." But
And so they divorced.
but can you imagine them taking a selfie? I mean, we're talking about today.
That
It's
would-
madness. That would be insane. Are you in the middle again? Right there.
Yes, I was struck by just gorgeous cinematography, and that flat shot, was that done with a helicopter or a crane?
helicopter.
It was a helicopter shot, yeah. I mean, it was a little surprisingly ornate for something that seemed to have been shot really much more naturalistically, but, I was just stunned by some of the images.
It's so amazing how we've grown up over the years and the developments of things that have come along where you could create that in a room in Van Nuys now and make it look real, like it's on the beach, but with all the drone shots and everything. seem
Now,
to be in it.
there are your parents are not in this film,
No.
but
There was-
you
there
guys
was-
did shoot some stuff with parents. Correct?
There was a drunken father in it.
Yeah, there is I will say that on the upcoming Blu-ray, we found that scene.
Did you?
So one of the extras is Richard Thomas's father is actually played by Ralph Waite,
Ralph
who
Waite,
was his
went on to
father.
play his father in the
Well, Walters, yeah, and so that is going to be an extra feature on
Wow,
the Blu-ray.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was actually added for some TV prints, like in the mid-70s, because they had such success on television, and it was like, oh, they threw the two Walton people together in the movie. But it's he basically, Richard Thomas comes home and his dad is drunk, and Richard Thomas has to put him to bed. It's kind of wild. And the end there, sir. You.
What do you think their ages are?
What do you think their ages are in the movie?
We were played about 17,
Yeah.
16,
I
17.
was 19 when I made it, you know, so.
Yeah, and I was 20, I guess.
I assume they're younger than that.
Yeah. I mean, Kathy Burns makes a reference to being in high school still. So
Oh.
they're high school students. They're in college and come winter, so I haven't picked on anyone here. Yes, you.
Yeah, I was wondering, since you're both great actors and have had a great career, and this was the early start, did you feel, did you get a lot of offers, and did you feel right away that, hey, I want to be an actor and make movies in Hollywood, or was it a slow process or difficult?
Well, I always knew I wanted to be an actor since when I found out there was actually a profession called acting. That was when I wanted to become an actor. So that wasn't a revelation to me. The change for me was with this film was the first time I ever did anything that was attempting to be artistic. And first time I played someone so far away from myself. And it did awaken, like I said, it frightened me, but it also awakened in me a real desire to play a variety of human beings. To go on from there, yeah.
It was sort of a double-edged sword for me, because from this I went on to do the Strawberry Statement in Willard, and I had a lot of success as a young leading man before I knew what the hell I was doing or even who I was. And I was very lucky. I co-starred in a Western called Hosanna's Raid with Burt Lancaster, directed by Robert Aldrich. But I was hissy-fitting about something someday, thinking that, we get to write the script too, right? And Aldrich looked at me and he said, "Kid, come over here. I gotta talk to you. You don't want to be a leading man. If you become a leading man, you'll be 6 pictures in, you'll be washed up in 30. You're a good actor. You can play the supporting roles. You can be a character actor. You can play the doctors and the lawyers and the Indians and the villains and the victims, and you don't have to carry a film, and you will never be rich, but you can raise a family in this town." And I said, "Well, I don't know if I can do that." That's what happened to me. And that's how I've lucked into a career that I've been able to be a part of for so long. But that was the best advice that I ever got, because I could have broken my heart on a lot of shoals.
Barbara, by the way, is being honored this year at the TCM Festival. We have time for just a couple more, maybe way in the back row.
It was such a powerful and affecting film. I was just saying to my friend before, it's so rare that a movie delivers on the promise of those first frames where you sort of feel this youth and this sort of wide open thing, but also this terror and the courage and bravery of the screenwriting and the direction to really deliver on where you think it might go. And you were both so incredible in it, but I just wanted to ask, the composition of the shots and the cinematography is incredible, but the staging and the blocking is so gorgeous and so symmetrical and perfect. Was there a lot of blocking, just being like the first film like that? Like, was he very involved in very positions in it? It's always perfect.
I don't think there was a lot of blocking more than any other film.
I think it was very organic. I think Frank let us rehearse. I mean, like I say, he put us all through the paces in auditioning to the point where, he said I was very lucky. I was got the New York Film Critics Award one year, and I got Frank just before he died to come up and he said, I put together a quartet. and you were my cello. But he did, he really did. He paired us into the 4 people that he wanted, and we became the bouncing ball that you follow. And everything else was devoted to that. The camera shots and everything, and it wasn't we have to block our way into this and that. We were also young and didn't know what we were doing, and when you're standing in front of somebody else or anything, he adapted to us and kept that to himself and to his cameraman.
I mean, I will agree with you that sometimes because maybe it's because it's a threesome, so it's like sometimes you guys will lock, and it'll be you guys and the bird, or you 2 together, and then someone comes in, and it's just you're kind of stunned by how gorgeous it looks, or how incredible the dynamic is of the blocking in the movie.
Maybe it's because it's 3.
Yeah. Interesting. Because it's 3 people.
Oh, because of the three, yeah.
We'll do have time for one more. Yeah, right there.
Funny question for Bruce.
Yes.
One of your 2 front teeth is really chipped in this, and I'm
Yeah.
curious if it was already chipped before your audition, or if
Yeah, no, I didn't break my tooth for the audition. No, actually, I explained it in the Strawberry Statement where Kim Darby says, "What happened to your tooth?" And I said, "A girl pushed me down a flight of steps in 3rd grade, and after that I had it capped."
All right, just a brief announcement. There is a Blu-ray coming from Warner Brothers at the end of May. And if you have any friends in New York, I'm going to be doing a Q&A with Richard Thomas at the Paris Theatre on May 3rd. So if you can tell them about it if you like it. And anyway, thank you guys very much.